Mike and Tom are registered with Stewart Partners Global Advisory LLC.
Common Sense Finance with Mike Wiginton and Tom Farrell of HL Wiginton Capital Management, an independent investment and financial planning firm in downtown Jasper. Mike is a chartered financial analyst charter holder, and Tom is a certified financial planner professional. They are here to discuss and give their thoughts on current financial and economic matters. Now, with Common Sense Finance, here are Mike and Tom.
Welcome back to another edition of Common Sense Finance. I'm Tom Farrell. This is Mike Wiginton. And you know, a lot in the press and things you read now, obviously inflation is one of them, but interest rates is really one of the hottest topics out there. So the interest rate question is what I'm going to ask you today, Mike.
Is that all you
That's just it.
That's just it. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we start it this way? We're going to get Oliver Stone to flash up our chart. It's a 40-year history of the 10-year Treasury rate. So the interest rate on the 10-year Treasury since February of 1982. Okay? It's pretty interesting. If you draw a trend line from the upper left to the lower right, that's a heck of a trend, you know? Mm-hmm. I'd hate to own a.
Well, you just gave it away.
I'd hate to own. Well, no, they can see it. It's
okay.
It's on the.
Oh, it's up
screen.
already.
It's already up on the screen. It's flashing up. We're talking about.
Okay, you didn't ruin it.
Okay, so no, I would never do that. And so I'd hate to own a stock that had that sort of trend line.
Yeah, that would be bad.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I kind of want to go two different places with that. Number one, I want to talk about kind of behavioral side effects with interest rates. All right, and so let's imagine that a person could get a 6% CD rate. Okay, today, and I don't care what term. Let's say a 5-year CD rate, lock it in for 5 years.
Okay.
Okay, 6%. Mm-hmm. And you were to ask them, hey, you've got money to put into market, and of course, there's all different people, different viewpoints and attitudes toward. Are they capable, or do they have the ability to accept stock market risk? Mm-hmm. And if they do, or are they willing to do it psychologically? But just so there's really no such thing as typical, but everybody can answer this themselves.
Let's assume they have, they put substantial amount of assets in that CD you're talking about,
okay,
when they could have invested in it.
Sure. So what would you do? Would you put the money in the stock market, or would you put the money in that 6% CD rate? And so I would say to you that the answer should always be, maybe for everybody, it depends. It depends. And so the first point here is I want to talk about what is my real rate of return.
Right.
Back in the day, and you gotta have to be careful with this, back in the day in school, okay, your real rate of return was after taxes and after inflation, okay? After taxes and after inflation. So that 6%, if you're in the 20%, we'll just say federal bracket, leave it at that, okay? All in 20%. So on 6%, you're gonna lose 1.2, mm-hmm. All right? So it puts you at 4.8 after tax. Well, what if your inflation rate is 6%? We're running more than that right now as we mm-hmm. speak, or have been, okay? So if it's 6%, your real return is negative 1.2.
Right.
All right? So I would say to you that you need to have some concept of what your real return was. It was written a lot in journals and elsewhere that that period of time that we have heard people talk about when they could get double-digit inflation or interest rates mm-hmm. on CDs, but at the same time, their real return in a lot of cases was negative.
Yeah, or they were paying that much or more on the interest on their mortgage.
So after all in, they weren't really making any money even at double-digit CD rates. So, there's a behavioral, and I don't know if it's anchoring or which bias that is, but there's a behavioral bias there that people see that. And they're like, oh, there's no doubt that's the direction I ought to go. And the point is, it's not that simple. And
right.
There's certain things, especially in this, I think it's kind of a critical, we possibly are at an inflection point. I mean, who knows? You saw the the last plot on that 40-year chart Matt just put up, which way is that going to continue to go? It's continue to go up? We have a downturn? Do we go into recession because of something that's going on?
Right.
A war or too many interest rate increases? If the market decides we're going into a recession, then you would bet that interest rates turn back down.
Right.
So nobody really knows, but if that regime, if that 40-year period is at an end, and you look at the period down. I mean, it's not straight down; it's up and down.
A lot of movement.
Yeah, on the way down. So, it's a really important time to be getting into that idea about, okay, what's this interest rate thing? What do interest rates really mean to us?
Right.
What's the rate I should be looking at? So that's kind of point number one. The second thing that's on my mind is that headline number that came out, that world record numbers, since they've been keeping up with the numbers, the increase in new home prices for 2021 was a positive 18 point something.
Yeah.
It's over 18%.
It was over 18, yeah.
It was the highest on record.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well,
And by the way, 2020 had a pretty big increase too, so that was on top of
yeah,
already kind of inflated.
And people are kind of, most of the folks that would watch this are kind of knowledgeable about what's going on there. They've been affected in a positive way from that. But for the last 40 years, if you owned a home over any length of time, there was a spot you could refinance your home and keep the existing term of your mortgage the same, okay, maturity of the same, and you got a lower rate that resulted in a whole lot lower payment.
Right.
So every few years you would get a raise if you refinance, just from refinancing at a lower rate. So I've just been thinking, if you get in just a modestly increasing rate, you're not going to refinance into a higher rate.
No.
So that part of the market what if that's over for a while?
Yeah.
And could there really be a thing as a deflationary period for home prices, where home prices go down for a prolonged? Is that even thinkable, Thomas?
We've seen that before.
I don't know. Most people, they think of well, first of all, I think it's still true that the home purchase is the biggest. They call it investment. Really, I've said homes are not investments, and they shouldn't be looked at that. You could turn it into one. You just don't know that anybody that does that. And so I'm not sure what that would mean in housing such a huge component of economic GDP growth and the ripple effect. And so that could, if you got into a period of declining home prices, that would be an interesting thinking process.
Yeah, and we've already started to see the new home sales, or home sales, maybe not new home sales slow down a pretty good chunk in January. And I don't know if the interest rates going up, if it have something to do with that, but a lot of that activity is slowing down in the last month. We'll see if that may be just seasonal or if it continues, but that would definitely be the beginning of what you're talking about. Yeah, and that certainly wouldn't bode well for the economic puzzle, I don't think, economic growth. Right. So, any other thoughts about that? That's it. Anything? Matt, if you'll scroll our email addresses across, if you have any thoughts or comments about that, call us or email us. We'd love to hear from you. Without anything else, we'll see you next time.
I just can't believe all the things people say. Controversy. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Controversy. Do I believe God? Do I believe me? Controversy. 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 I can't understand